Thailand. You think temples, beaches, amazing food, right?
Yeah.
A huge draw for tourists worldwide.
Absolutely massive.
But there's this big conversation happening there now about whether legalizing casinos is the next step. Could it make Thailand even more attractive?
It's a really pivotal question they're grappling with. And for this deep dive, we've got some interesting research to get into. It's called 8 Impact of Casino Business on Thailand's Tourism Industry, an analysis from the perspective of international travelers.
Right. So instead of just the general pros and cons, we're really zeroing in on, well, what do the actual tourists think? International visitors, how do they see casinos fitting into the Thai experience?
Exactly. And what could that mean for the whole tourism sector, the economy?
So our mission today is basically to pull out the key findings from this study, understand the potential socio-economic effects, what travelers are thinking, and maybe what policy options are on the table.
And it's quite broad, this research. They talk to backpackers, luxury travelers, families.
Oh, really? Covering the spectrum.
Yeah, in places like Bangkok, Phuket, Chiang Mai. So it gives a pretty good snapshot.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Okay.
Thailand and gambling. It feels kind of new, but maybe not.
That's actually one of the first surprising things in the research. It digs into the history, and, well, gambling in Thailand goes way, way back.
How far back are we talking?
We're talking the Ayutthaya Kingdom, 17th century.
No way, the 17th century. So what were they betting on? Elephant races?
Actually, yes. Elephant back races were apparently a thing, and things like lotus blossom contests, too. It wasn't just casual betting, though. Siamese kings used it kind of diplomatically to entertain foreign envoys during these big ceremonies. Betting was part of the official hospitality.
Wow, royal-approved gambling. That's quite a contrast to how things are now.
Huge contrast. Fast forward to 1930, the criminal code comes in and casinos are made illegal.
Let it change.
Mostly concerns about, potential moral decline, social problems, accidents, the usual worries associated with gambling back then.
Right. But did that stop it completely?
Well, no. The study points out that illegal casinos definitely operate sort of under the radar, outside state control. And that's a big part of why this whole legalization debate keeps bubbling up.
Okay, so that history is fascinating. But why is settling this casino question so important for Thailand right now?
Well, the research highlights this global trend. Casinos aren't just casinos anymore. They're often a huge and growing part of international tourism.
You see that in places like Macau or Vegas, obviously.
Exactly. And countries that have leaned into it have often seen, well, pretty significant economic benefits. We're talking government revenue, big infrastructure projects getting funded, lots of jobs created.
So it's seen as a potential economic driver.
Definitely. And beyond just the money, casinos can add another layer to the tourist experience, right? More entertainment options. It might make people stay longer, spend a bit more.
Okay, that makes sense. Keep people entertained in the evenings, maybe.
Yeah, and the study even mentions this idea of cultural exchange happening in casinos.
Cultural exchange over a roulette wheel. How does that work?
I guess the idea is you have people from all over the world interacting in one space, maybe chatting, maybe just observing, picking up on different, social cues or gaming styles. It's an interesting angle.
It is, yeah. But what about the downsides? The study must address those too.
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't gloss over that. Concerns about gambling addiction, potential links to crime, they're very real. And the need for strong ways to manage those risks is highlighted as crucial if they ever did legalize.
Can't ignore that side of the coin.
And another key point the researchers make is that there's been a bit of a gap. People have looked at local gambling, but not much focus specifically on what international tourists think about casinos, especially near border areas where some illegal stuff might be happening.
So this study fills that niche, focusing purely on the visitor perspective.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's get into it then. What did these international travelers say? How did they feel about the idea?
Well, the research breaks down potential casino visitors into a couple of main types, which is useful for thinking about the potential market.
Like who?
You've got your high rollers, the VIPs. They're after exclusivity, special treatment, and, well, the chance to bet big.
Right, the whales.
Then you have the casual players, maybe more interested in it as fun, leisure, part of the holiday experience. Their individual spend might be lower, but there are lots of them, so collectively, they're really important for revenue.
So you need to appeal to both the big spenders and the broader crowd just looking for a bit of fun.
Exactly. Understanding what motivates each group is key for, marketing and managing a casino effectively.
So did the study find out if tourists even knew about gambling in Thailand? Was it on their radar at all?
It was a real mixed bag, actually. Some people had absolutely no idea gambling existed there in any form.
Total surprise to them.
Yeah. Then others were actually quite interested. Some even mentioned specific things they'd want, like big enough jackpots or a good selection of slot machines.
Okay, so some are coming with expectations based on casinos elsewhere.
Seems like it. But then you also had travelers who were strongly against promoting gambling, really concerned about the potential social harm.
So a real spectrum of views.
Definitely. The researchers kind of identified two potential target groups emerging from this: people looking for something new or different, the novelty seekers, and then your more dedicated, hardcore gamblers.
The curious and the serious players. Makes sense.
And here's a really interesting bit. A lot of the people surveyed said that whether or not Thailand had casinos would influence their overall impression of the country as a destination.
Really?
Yeah, and it would even affect whether they'd plan to come back.
Wow. So this decision could actually impact Thailand's tourism brand and loyalty.
It strongly suggests that, yes.
Okay, so if there's this potential interest, what does that look like in terms of, actual economic benefits? What's the potential upside for Thailand?
Well, the potential is pretty significant, according to the analysis. First off, taxes. Legal casinos could mean a whole new stream of tax revenue for the government.
Which they could then reinvest, presumably.
It's exactly into public services, infrastructure, maybe even back into tourism promotion itself. Plus, investment in the casino industry itself, building hotels, entertainment complexes that would likely boost related sectors too.
Like hotels, restaurants.
All that leading maybe to more tourists overall. And
Yeah.
jobs, of course, that's a big one.
What kind of jobs?
Across the board, really. Dealers, security, people working in the hotels and restaurants connected to the casinos, support staff. It could be quite widespread.
So more jobs, more government money. Sounds good on paper.
It does. The study also circles back to that cultural exchange point, suggesting regulated casinos could be another place for tourists and locals to interact. And crucially, from an economic view, they could attract those higher spending tourists.
One's looking for luxury experiences.
Yeah. And their spending often flows out into other high-end parts of the economy: fancy hotels, fine dining, shopping, tours.
The ripple effect.
Right. And another potential benefit mentioned is that having legal, regulated options might help reduce the scale of illegal gambling, make things safer, more transparent.
Bringing it out of the shadows.
But, and it's a big but, the study constantly emphasizes that you have to balance these potential economic pluses against the potential social costs.
Right.
Addiction, crime. They need really careful management. It's not a simple equation.
A very delicate balance indeed. So if Thailand were to go down this road, what kind of policies does the research suggest they'd need? What are the recommendations?
The study puts forward several key recommendations, really trying to learn from other places and address the concerns raised by travelers. Top of the list is the need for a really modern, comprehensive system to prevent gambling harm.
Like responsible gaming programs.
Exactly. Robust programs, support services for people who run into trouble. That needs to be there from day one, non-negotiable.
Makes sense. What else?
A strong emphasis on minimizing the negative side effects. That means transparency in how things operate, ethical practices, accountability, not just in the casinos, but across the linked tourism businesses too.
Keeping things above board.
Yeah. Interestingly, it suggests focusing maybe more on higher income tourists as the main target.
Aiming for a premium market, perhaps, not just mass gambling.
That seems to be the implication. And it stresses the absolute need for a clear, detailed policy and regulatory system just for casinos. One that thinks about local gambling habits and the specifics of attracting and managing international tourists.
Tailored regulations.
Right, and involving local communities is flagged as vital. The Ministry of Tourism and Sports should really engage with people on the ground before deciding where or even if casinos should be built. Getting local buy-in is key.
Avoids friction down the line. Good point.
Public health needs to be baked in too. Responsible gaming education campaigns should be part of the strategy. And the study strongly advises using the precautionary principle.
Rating.
Basically, be cautious, take a measured approach, do thorough checks, especially qualitative ones, to make sure everything aligns with what local communities actually want and need and that it's fair. Don't rush it.
Slow and steady. Get it right.
That's the vibe. Finally, it highlights how casino policies and overall tourism policies need to talk to each other. They have to be integrated to get the best results and offer a smooth experience for visitors.
Okay, so pulling all this together, What's the bottom line from this deep dive into the research? What are the main insights?
I think the core takeaway is that, on the whole, international travelers seem somewhat receptive, maybe even supportive, of casinos in Thailand. They see the potential for economic growth, for jobs.
But with big caveats.
Huge caveats. The study is crystal clear. Careful management, strict rules, and seriously thinking about the social impacts aren't just nice to haves. They are absolutely essential if this were to move forward responsibly.
It really is that balancing act, isn't it? Trying to capture those economic benefits without undermining the social fabric or even changing what makes Thailand, well, Thailand for so many tourists.
Precisely. Which leads us right into our final thought for you listening. Considering everything Thailand's own history with gambling, the potential economic upsides, the very real social concerns, what do you think is the most responsible way forward here? If casinos were to become legal, what kind of safeguards would be the most critical to put in place to make sure it truly benefits the country without losing its unique character or harming its people? Something to think about.